All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Greetings from the Garden State. So I'm your host, Mike Ham, but this is like a different kind of series that we're going to kick off here. So we have Bill Anthes here, repeat guest. I don't know how you turned that around so fast, but here you are.
I do impressive things,
Yeah,
completely by accident, though.
Yeah, I asked you to do this, but maybe just because I was so blown away when we did your Between the Ears episode, that definitely can't be it. But
When you confuse people enough,
yeah,
they
it's
just
smoke
keep.
and mirrors.
Yeah, that's all it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about kind of what this new project is going to be.
Yeah.
And then we'll kind of get into your story and all that kind of stuff. So
Mhm.
I had come to you to talk about maybe doing a series that we're going to release. This episode is going to be on the normal feed of the podcast, but we're also going to have other episodes about New Jersey based veterans.
Yeah.
So you're a New Jersey based veteran, you know other ones, and we're going to have
Mhm.
them on the show as well. So like I said, this one's going to be part of the main feed, but the rest we're going to put behind a paywall, I guess is the best way to say it. And then all the money that we make from that, we're going to donate back to a veteran organization. We're going to figure that one out
Yeah.
once we do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm excited that you agreed to do it.
Yeah.
And I'm pumped about it.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's like we were talking about before. It's super nice to have. I'm not gonna say like not like civilians or non-veterans, but it's nice to be thought about.
Yeah.
And there's every veteran story is truly unique to the number of veterans there are.
Right.
And sharing some of those voices, sharing some of those local voices is just a really cool way to connect people in the local community to veterans and give a potentially cathartic, therapeutic, whatever it might be, platform for folks to just share their service story. It's
Yeah.
really, really cool thing you're doing.
Yeah. I think when we talked about this last week, one of the ideas that I had about this was because when we do this show normally, it's about local business owners, nonprofits, other people that live here. And like even those people's stories aren't told enough, which is why we do the show.
Right.
And then, with Veterans Day coming up, and I think we're trying to like focus on that day to maybe try to get
Yeah.
this all dropped. Fingers crossed we can do that.
Mhm.
But I think that was a good kind of timing thing. And then obviously meeting you was great too because I don't know many veterans.
Mhm.
I'm sure I could find them,
Yeah.
but it's good to have somebody like you.
Yeah.
So we're going to co-host the future episodes together. Talk with all these different people. You had told me some earlier,
Yeah.
but we'll hang on to those and
Yeah.
try to like tease them a little bit before we drop them all. So
Cool.
I think we also talked about kind of the structure of this
Yeah.
show or these episodes. Excuse me. So we're gonna do pre-military,
Mhm.
during the military,
Yeah.
and then post-military. And we did get your pre kind of post-military stuff, but we're gonna dive in a little bit deeper because that was more on like the between the ears level
Sure.
and less about
Yeah.
Bill. We want to know more about Bill.
Yeah.
So let's learn more about you. So are you born and raised in Jersey?
Yeah, so I was born and raised in Cranford.
Okay.
So that's where born and raised, that's where mom and dad still live. I went to Cranford High, graduated in 2003, went up the road to Montclair State where I played soccer.
And you were okay at soccer?
I was okay at soccer. Yeah.
Yeah. No accolades whatsoever, right?
I don't know if you're throwing me a grenade here or a sword to fall on and say this guy's an asshole.
It's more of a softball.
No, I appreciate it.
Crank out of the park.
Co-host, hosting. I see what you're doing
well,
there.
I have to like indoctrinate you into how I run these shows. Like I normally don't have co-hosts, but
Yeah,
we'll figure it out.
Yeah. I was an All-American there, inducted into the Hall of Fame there as well. I had a great career. I was fortunate to be part of a great program, great coaches, teammates, the whole bit. It's a team sport, not an individual sport.
Yeah.
And,
was soccer like always your sport, kind of like growing up? Because I played till I was, I think, like 9.
Yeah.
I was on the purple team,
Right.
the Gorillas, and our chant was. Did I ever tell you this?
No.
Okay, our chant was Gorillas. So
is that why you quit playing?
Well, I loved playing defense because I sucked at like scoring, but I was great at like slide tackling other 8 and 9-year-old kids.
Yeah, but the
then
purple team in that chant would make anyone want to quit.
Yeah, but I had fun, but then baseball kind of took over my life, and then I did that. So
yeah, did you play through high school?
Through college, dude.
In college?
Yeah, TCNJ. So Trenton State, probably because you're a lot older than me.
What? Trenton State was what it used to be.
Yeah. So when you went, was it TCNJ?
How old do you think I am?
I don't know. I actually have no idea.
When did you graduate?
2012.
All right, so I was 6 years ahead of you.
Oh, all right. So
Yeah, yeah.
you just look a lot older.
Hey, thanks. Life just weathering
Yeah,
me.
I mean, yeah,
Yeah,
no, I get it.
yeah,
But
no, it's
yeah, so I played baseball TCNJ.
nice.
I was reliever of the year in the conference my senior year.
The
So
NJAC?
the NJAC.
So you played Montclair.
Oh yeah, my last regular season of the my senior season. We made the playoffs, so I did pitch a little bit more, but pitched at Yogi Berra Stadium.
Yep.
Blew a lead in the ninth inning. They tied it up
Mm,
because their third baseman couldn't field. And it doesn't matter. And then we
it
went
does.
out. It does. We went out for the 10th inning. First pitch, this little cat, I think his name was Cody Pace, threw like a fastball inside. It just kind of tailed back over the plate. He put it on the hill. We lost. That was my last regular. That was the first
Uh,
home run I had given up since my freshman year of college. And it was a walk-off home run. So that was, I have a lot of fond memories of Montclair State.
this is good. We're off to a good start
Yeah,
here.
yeah, very like you said, cathartic.
Yes,
This is a little bit
yes,
different kind of catharsis, but
yes.
cathartic nonetheless. But
Right.
yeah, so baseball, that was my whole deal. So
Yeah.
we're closer in age than I thought for sure,
Right.
and also we played in the same conference,
Same
just
conference, New
different
Jersey
sports.
Athletic
Yeah,
Conference.
like
Yeah.
the best one going.
I mean, from a D3 perspective,
It's hard to
good
beat.
luck finding another one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's got to be one of the best in the country.
Yeah. And across all sport, like there's some conferences that obviously like one sport or
Sure.
the other, but
Yeah.
across all sports,
Oh,
the
it's
NJAC is
yeah,
it's legit, which
yeah.
is good because I mean that conference season, you got to show up.
Oh yeah.
You're fighting, you're
Yeah.
battling,
Yeah.
and
Well, I
it's
didn't.
good.
So I mean, I grew up playing baseball in Jersey. We're like so off topic, but I love it. I grew up playing baseball in Jersey. I didn't start at TCNJ in college. I started
Uh,
at Franklin and Marshall College out in Pennsylvania,
yeah.
and it
Yeah,
was
yeah, yeah.
good. Like Centennial Conference, good conference, whatever. And then eventually transferred to TCNJ right before my junior year. And I remember our first regular season NJAC game. I was like, "Holy shit! This is how I grew up playing."
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
everybody's talking shit,
Yep.
like everyone's pissed off at each other, like no one likes each other.
No.
It's the best stuff ever.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
like inject that back into my veins like that.
Yes.
That's the only thing. If there's one thing of sports that I miss, it was like that level of like, we got Thursday, Friday, doubleheader Saturday against two different teams.
Right.
And like, even if you're playing Jersey City, like they're going to bring it, and
Right.
they may not be as good as some of the other teams, but you might
Right.
drop one to them,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and
You gotta run on caffeine and hate, man.
yeah, oh yeah,
That's
yeah,
what we say.
right. And then just go out drinking at night on Saturday. It's the best stuff ever.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so let's get back. Let's get back to you. So
Yeah.
NJAC, Montclair State,
Yep.
All American,
Yep.
Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
Growing up, was the military a part of your family, or was that something that was kind of new when you finally got into it?
Yeah, so it was part of my family, by way of both my grandfathers were in World War II. Um, my dad's dad, we were a little bit more closer to his military service. Just had a bunch more memorabilia and that kind of stuff. But my grandfather was also my mom's dad was also in the Navy, and then my older brother John, grew up in Cranford, so you're like under the flight line for Newark Airport.
Yeah.
So he always wanted to fly. My dad's dad was on B-17, and so he wanted to fly. He went to Air Force Academy, uh, and so that was like always part of like the thing.
Yeah.
I always grew up wanting to be a commando.
Okay.
Not this. There was no one from my family that was a commando or even in the army that I know of, and that was always a part of it. That always informed my sports. And
Okay.
as I got older, when off season training and everything like that, I would try to embody what a commando would do.
Sure.
I'm a Green Beret, but back in the day, I was like, Navy SEALs. There was this Charlie Sheen movie that came out that was like, yeah, pretty awesome.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Navy
Uh,
SEALs seem very cool.
very cool.
Yeah.
Flying in on a parachute.
Yep.
Midair,
Taking out
picking
like
dudes
Bin
off.
Laden.
That's it.
Crazy stuff.
No big deal.
No big deal.
So I figured if I could be fraction of those dudes, then on the field I might be okay.
Yeah. Right.
And so that was always a undercurrent to whatever I did. It was almost like the like beneath the surface part of the iceberg. And then September 11th happened. That was that hit really close.
Yeah.
Not necessarily that I was fortunate not to lose any family members, any friends, anything like that, but that where I was in life at that point, at that age, uh, that was a big thing, and I kind of knew like, yeah, there's this other calling for me.
Mhm.
But I battled the struggle between having an older brother. He was in the Air Force Academy at that time, so he went into the military pre-war. Uh, what would it be for another son,
Yeah.
2 of 3 now,
Right.
in the military in a guaranteed, from September 11 on,
Yeah.
what, and I struggled that. I delayed going in for a while. Went to college. After college, went to work in the corporate world, and got to 25 and was like, I need to pursue what I feel is my calling.
Yeah.
What is my, you know, what I want to aspire to be, or never think about it again.
Right.
And I was unwilling to never think about it again.
Is that like, is 25 late for someone that's going to go down that path, or is that like a standard time? I don't really know how that
It
works.
it's not. Yeah, it's more towards the later side.
Okay.
It's not necessarily late
You're not like an
for.
old man compared to like 18-year-old kids, but you're,
No,
you know,
no,
okay.
no, not at all. And in special, so I went in with I went in to become a Green Beret. That's U.S. Army Special Forces, and that was not. I was not like by any means towards the older part of the crowd, because you're also getting like prior service and other
Okay.
other branches and stuff like that. So you can certainly have an older group, but for enlisting into the military, yeah, that is not the most common.
Gotcha. Okay. And then, so you said it already. You're a Green Beret.
Yeah.
You said you wanted to be a commando, like
Yeah.
that was like your thing.
Yeah.
Was like, and we mentioned SEALs. I know there's like Army Rangers. I'm
Yeah.
sure there's other different special forces, spec ops, whatever you call them,
Yeah.
that exist. Was there a particular thing about the Green Berets that drew you to that? Because there are other types of special forces, or is it kind of
Yeah.
random? I don't know how that works.
No, yeah. I mean, it was growing up reading about what they did. So Green Berets had a tremendous lineage going back to Vietnam.
Mhm.
The men with green faces is what they were sort of referred to as, and they were involved in unconventional warfare. And the way it's sort of pitched, I suppose, is that there's that element of like brute force and just stormtrooper, and then there's that element of winning a war without necessarily firing a shot kind
Yeah.
of deal. That's actually, I think yesterday was the anniversary of the unit that I was at going into Afghanistan via horseback.
Oh,
You know, so,
I didn't even know they did that anymore.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. This was in the month following September 11th.
Okay.
They were on the ground riding horses, doing their thing,
Like checking stuff out, and I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, like calling in airstrikes and killing
Oh.
them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Not just like exploratory,
No.
like
No,
legit
and
stuff.
those relationships and that groundwork has already kind of been established through whatever, through training assignments,
Sure.
missions, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I'm learning so much already. This is so great.
And so special forces is that unconventional warfare where it's not just about kind of kicking indoors and doing that deed, but how you can leverage sort of more of the mind, and some of that's like a little bit of a thing that differentiates, or at least they say differentiates, but ultimately everybody in the military needs to be a thinker.
Sure.
It's just that they kind of highlight that a little bit more.
Okay. All right. So Green Beret. How long does the training take for something like that before you get?
Yeah.
I guess you get your Green Beret.
Yeah. So I enlisted I went to basic training in November of 2010, and I donned my Green Beret for the first time in March, is when we graduated, 2013.
Oh, so that's a
long time.
Yeah, 2.5 years.
Which included basic training, which
Sure.
included airborne school, which included.
Yeah, so I'm sure you got to go through like all the. You don't just be like, I'm in Green Beret.
No.
Yeah.
No. But at 6 months into the Army, I was standing formation in the middle of nowhere, Camp McCall, North Carolina.
Yeah.
Waiting to be told what to do as far as selection.
Okay.
So, they're like, hey, you want to try to become a Green Beret? It's great for the Army because, hey, you grew up watching G.I. Joe? Cool. Come on in. We hook you up.
Yeah.
People have no idea what it entails.
Right.
If you fail out at any point in time, the needs of the Army get somebody who at some point wanted to be a special operator.
Yeah.
So it's a great way for them to get their numbers.
Sure.
There's a little bit of a recruiting trail.
Yeah.
But
you wanted to do it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Was there I've watched shows, my dad loves these kinds of shows of like the Navy SEAL training, like those Discovery Channel shows of them like carrying the log and swimming with the boat and whatever.
Yeah.
Is that something you're doing? And was there ever a moment during this training where you're just like, fuck this, this sucks? Like
many times.
I would imagine. I would probably think that quite a bit.
Anybody that says like they didn't have that thing of like fuck this, that sucks is trying to be someone who in the moment they weren't.
Sure.
And it's not to say you act upon that,
Yeah.
It's not to say that you're weak because you were I remember having probably 180 pounds worth of sandbags on my neck, in addition to a 60-pound rucksack and fake M4 in selection. Walking after being exhausted, maybe it was 800 meters or so up and down a couple berms to get to the point where you have to drop it off.
Yeah.
And there's a dude waiting at that point where you have to drop it off. And if you had a sandbag that was filled less than the width of your fist, if you make a fist, then it didn't count. All right, and so, but sand and burlap, there's some play room there.
Sure.
Right? So we fill these fucking things up to that, and he would get this sandbag and grab it, leave a little extra, come up and smash it against the ground, so all the sand goes down, and then pull up as hard as he could on the sandbag, and like a magic trick, find 3 more inches of bag. And you're like, what the hell? It just took me 15 minutes of herniating my spine.
Right.
To get this thing, and he just does. And by the way, we have to bring 100 of them to him before this evolution is complete. All day. The crater-sized hole.
Yeah,
of
him
digging
it out.
And then you're like, oh my god, then you gotta walk back, and then you can't adjust your plan.
Right.
Because you're like, no, Kevin, this is your plan. I was actually one of the leads on that, and God, it was not just. So there was plenty of those times, right?
Of course.
Oh fuck it, and that's part of it,
right?
And if you don't expect it to be difficult, you don't know what you're getting into. One of the first weeks of selection, we had maybe it was a 6 or 8 mile timed run, and it's in the middle of summer in the middle of the woods in North Carolina, and fires are a bit of an issue.
Yeah.
There's all sorts of reasons why on military installation fires are a bit of an issue. Things go bang and create fire and all that. And so there's controlled burns are just a part of the preservation, forestry, and all of that. Well, they ran a burn line real close to the little rabbit trail that we were running down. And you would have thought people were getting burned alive. And people were like, oh, this is so unsafe. I'm breathing in toxic smoke. And I remember at that moment being like, I'm going to do well here. Because, and I'm not exactly proud to admit this, but I look at it like, you're fucking weak. What did you expect? It was going to be on a perfect conditioned, well-marked path without any elevation. Like, you're in Special Forces selection. This is what you came for. So I was like, fuck yeah, this is awesome.
Yeah.
And, that's kind of part of the adversity. How do you respond to it? How do you view it fundamentally? Yeah. And they're just trying to sniff people out for, do you have the bare minimum for us to be able to further train you? Right. And a lot of people can't get past that, mostly because of their own doing. Yeah. And it's an effective way of getting people to quit, getting people to wash out.
Yeah, because you need that too, because if you're going to get to the next level and do stuff like these guys are doing, you can't have people that are...
If you're going to ride horses in to link up with warlords in a country you've never been in, middle of the night, you have no idea, you better deal well with the unknown and with adversity.
Of course.
And that's the lineage.
Yeah. All right, so you get through training, and then you get to, is there like a graduation?
Yeah.
Like a ceremony type thing?
Yeah, big ceremony.
So take me through that, because obviously, it was something that had been a part of your life for a while, or at least something that you had aspired to do. And you get to that moment where it's like, you're done. Well, you're not done, but you're done with training, and you've kind of made it. Take me through like maybe the emotions that you're feeling. Are you like pumped? Is it what you expected? That kind of thing.
It's a bit of everything. Relief,
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah. I mean, just from what you're explaining, I definitely see that.
Yeah, and not every day is like
of course
nuts kind of deal, but
yeah,
just relief from I made it. I made it through, and it is a war of attrition. It's an endurance event. It's a 2-year long for me at least. It was from entering the army until walking across that stage with my Green Beret in hand. Every single second of every single day, my mission was not complete.
Yeah.
And that informed everything. And it felt really good to say, hey, I made it through this. Now the real training begins. And now, it's because then you get to a team and you're like, you're the new guy, you don't know shit.
Yeah.
I sat on an upside down paint bucket for the first 6 months being on my team because my team sergeant was again like an amazing, he's one of my best friends, but like, yeah, welcome to the real world now.
Yeah. This isn't training.
This isn't training.
Like,
no, this is where it's
real stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there was absolutely relief. There was a tremendous amount of gratitude for just, obviously my wife, Cariana, my family, my mom and dad, coaches, everybody that contributed something at some point. The 2 years of that pursuit, I had to call upon it at some point.
Yeah.
And I didn't get there alone. Like I didn't get to the Hall of Fame alone. I didn't become a Green Beret alone. Absolutely not. And to feel that, wow, like all the goods, the ups and downs, the people I love, the people I don't want to speak to, contributed something to this getting here. There was a tremendous amount of gratitude.
Yeah.
And there's excitement about what the future is going to hold.
Right.
What now? What next?
Yeah.
And it was pretty cool.
Excuse me. Yeah, because to me, especially like talking about 2 years of all this training and doing all this stuff, and obviously it's hard, but at the same time, it's something that you wanted. So it's like great that you finally were able to get there.
Yeah.
All right, so then the ceremony happens. You got your Green Beret, gratitude, relief, all that kind of stuff. But now it's like you said, real world time. It's not training anymore.
No.
These are like real types of stuff. So maybe take me through like the military career almost.
Yeah. Yeah. So I go down to Fort Campbell, Kentucky, Tennessee, depending upon where you're at. The border is split between both. So it's in both Tennessee and Kentucky, which is kind of funny. I get the 5th Special Forces Group, which those were the dudes riding in horses, doing a lot of that work, and get to my team, and I remember somebody telling me in not so pleasant terms what my senior was going to do to me when he saw me.
Okay.
And I hear these footsteps coming up the stairs from the the downstairs of the team room is like where the cages and lockers are and equipment cages. And the upstairs.
No, they're not cage. Cool.
Yeah. But I mean, that's happened before. True story. And he comes up and I turns the corner and just makes like eye contact, and it's like, who the fuck are you? I'm like, I'm Bill, I'm your new junior. And he's like, well, start pushing. And it's just right to push-ups, doing push-ups. And so, there's a bit of that. He lost his brother in 2008 in Iraq, who was another Green Beret.
Okay.
And one of the first things that happened is I went down to the cages, above the cage, and there was a picture of a dude above the cage. And he pointed to him and said, do you know who this is? I had done a little bit of homework, a little bit of research, so I knew. So I did. Don't ever forget it. Not just him, but don't ever forget it came for us.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, this is real.
Right.
This is real.
Yeah.
And why the Green Beret does have so much, esteem and whatever it might be, isn't because of anything I've done. It's become what it is because of what those who came before me have done.
Right.
And in many ways, those who aren't here anymore, what they've done, what they've sacrificed, and their families.
Yeah. Right, because that's another big part of it too, for sure.
Huge.
Yeah.
Huge, without a doubt.
Yeah. Is there almost a sense of like pressure or something? I don't know if pressure is the right word, but knowing that you're now in it, you're
Mhm.
now like, and this is a totally different challenge because it's real,
Mhm.
and you could be called upon to get on
Yeah.
this horse and ride through some crazy country that you've never been to.
Right.
But knowing kind of like what the lineage of the Green Berets has been for you to now, like you said, like it's not like I haven't done that,
Mhm.
but they've done it. But now
Mhm.
it's on you too because now you're part of that same lineage.
Yeah. I mean, there is a tremendous amount of pressure,
Yeah.
and there's it's wrapped up in a couple different things, which is just whatever. I don't know how to even describe it, but one is this belief of self that you'll never be enough. Like,
Right.
I'll never be good enough to actually. They say, "Hey, earn your tab or earn your beret every single day," and it's like I don't believe that I'm ever going to be able to do that. And so there's kind of that thing of like, man, really? Like, so then when people like that's not exactly like a healthy place to operate from, you
No,
know
it
what I
doesn't
mean?
seem like it.
Like you're just I'm unworthy of this thing. And
Right.
it's not like this sob story or whatever, but
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
just like it's just it informs so much more too. It's like cuz it's ultimately you and you don't dissociate from that and then say, "Oh, by the way, I'm a person outside of this." It
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
it
Right.
really does consume everything.
Yeah.
At least for me it did. And then there's also this pressure maybe I don't know if pressure is the right word either, but there's this thing of like, well, the only way I could ever make myself worthy of this is to give everything
Yeah.
that I have to it to include my life.
Right.
The ultimate sacrifice is to die for someone else. And that's what more could I possibly give? There's a definitive thing that you can say through sacrifice, through death, through whatever,
Sure.
that like, hey, I earned it today. And again,
Yeah.
that has a cost too.
Right. And yeah, it's like obviously nothing that I've ever experienced, but just like the process of that, of like, it's crazy because it's something that you wanted for your whole life. You do the training, you get to that point, and then you're there. And it's like, even though you made it, in quotes, air
Yeah.
quotes,
Yeah.
it's like you still don't feel good enough for it. Maybe
Right.
good enough again, not the right phrase.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then also knowing that like, you know, like the next step, like the way that you could feel complete is if you're, just
Yeah.
not here anymore.
When will it ever be enough?
It,
Kay asked me that one time, and
right.
I didn't tell her like, well,
When I'm dead. Yeah, right.
you know,
Because that's yeah,
but it's like when will it ever and that really plagued me for a while getting out. And it's like I didn't give enough.
yeah,
I didn't give enough, I didn't do enough, and when will it ever be enough?
right.
And regardless of how many people tell you, hey, you did, and I got out for family. I left. I didn't re-enlist because I was tired of. Well, I never was with my family. They were up in New Jersey. I was down in Tennessee or overseas or training or doing whatever, and that was the life, and that was going to be it. And it's like I'll see you when I see you,
Yeah,
not in the kids' life.
right.
Um, and so I got out to be with my family, but it's like, so what greater cause is there? It's like, yeah, but that wasn't enough,
Yeah,
and that's a hard thing.
yeah. How long were you enlisted for?
5 years total.
5 years total.
Yeah,
And you said you did a couple overseas stuff. So like, where were
yeah,
you?
deployed to the Middle East.
Okay. All
Yeah,
right. And what was that experience like? Because obviously that's a lot different, I would imagine, than like Kentucky/Tennessee.
yeah, definitely different.
Yeah.
It was not the traditional deployment that I wanted.
Okay.
We were supposed to go to we were supposed to go to Afghanistan, which is kind of what at that time everybody wanted.
Hmm.
There was another conflict going on in the region that was also potentially good, put that in quotes.
And
Anyway,
when
we
you
were
say good in quotes, is that just like
get to go do what you trained to do.
right, some
You know,
action?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Not just like
yeah.
go on like a cushy
No, there was a country whose president,
seat.
Syria was popping off,
Yeah.
and that was like, all right, this dude's gassing people. Let's go do what we do. The
Right.
motto of Green Berets Special Forces is De Oppresso Liber, which means to free the oppressed. There's a couple very effective ways that we that we do that,
Right.
and to be in a new mission for that, Iraq, Afghanistan have been going on now for for 9, 10 years at this
Yeah.
point, 12. So that was it. So we were going to go to Afghanistan, then we got wrapped up in this other mission. Um, got moved from that. Another team took it. A couple dudes on that wound up getting killed. which is obviously hard. And there's a team from fifth group, and you're just like, man, I don't know, like, could it have been different? Whatever, you play these games
Of
and ask these
course.
questions, and
Yeah.
there's no answer to it. But overseas, we were working with somebody who works in the DC area, and they said, hey man, when you see how sausage is made, you might never want to eat a hot dog again.
Okay. I like weirdly know kind of like what that means, but yeah.
Yeah, and that was sort of how I would describe that deployment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And so then how long was that deployment?
4 months.
How long after did you go
Was going to go
back
back.
and then that's when you
Yeah,
decided to,
it was a weird thing. There was some stuff going on personally,
okay.
with our family, and I was supposed to go back. So we were going to go 4 months there, back for maybe 3 or 4 months, 4 months back. I was like, all right, cool. I'll spend the better part of the year deployed. That's fine. That's what even though it was a sausage factory, like, I still want to go and do what we do.
Yeah.
Anyway, and that was going to bring me like right up until like my termination date. So then I was going to be in this weird thing of, well, honestly, like if presented overseas, I might have reenlisted for another maybe year or two, or
Right.
played that game. And there were some things going on, and one of the hardest things I've ever had to do was go to the guy who first said to me, "Who the fuck are you?"
Yeah.
Who was a mentor, who was my boss and my team sergeant at the time then, and say, "Hey, like, I don't, I can't go,
Yeah.
and I'm not reenlisting for family, and the reason I can't go is because I'm, I don't know if my family will last. Like, I don't know if it'll be the same when we come back."
Yeah.
And he was like, "Say no more."
That's good. That's the response. I mean, I know that that's still
Yeah.
tough and everything,
It
but
was it ate it was a very, very it was a very dark 6 months for me.
post or
During
at
teams over there.
okay, leading up to the end
Yep.
of your
Yep.
time with them.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. I didn't go, man.
Yeah.
I didn't go.
And all
I
your
didn't go.
buddies are there.
Yeah, the team's there. You always want to do better, and after you've got one trip, you can do two and get better, and this and that, and that's kind of like the progression. And to say like who being an athlete,
Yeah.
you don't train, practice, be good, do this thing, feel like you can compete, and then say, "Hey, coach, I don't think I can play today."
Yeah.
But what's really the most important thing to you?
Right.
And yeah,
Yeah.
that was hard.
Yeah. Okay, so get to the end, the 6 months, you finally finish up. We good?
Should I turn the camera back on again?
Oh yeah. I didn't realize it was off.
I think it just
I'm
turned
just so
on.
like locked in on this story.
You're in it.
I'm not even paying attention. Like I can't wait to do more of these, and we're gonna leave this part in with the show because this is like so. This is exactly what I was hoping for. We would get
Cool.
from an episode like this. So I
Yeah.
really appreciate you sharing
Yeah.
up to and including this point.
Yeah.
But all right, so you make it through that 6 months. Your time with the Green Berets is over.
Yeah.
You're going back home
Yeah.
to Jersey and
Yeah.
to family and everything like that.
Yeah.
Obviously, like those 6 months you said were a dark time for you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, did it take time to kind of readjust yourself back to full-time life at home? Because obviously, like, you would do 4 months overseas, 3 months back. I'm sure part of that 3 months back at least would be home seeing family.
For a little
But
bit.
now now you're full-time husband, dad, son, brother, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, was there an adjustment period, I
Oh yeah.
guess? Yeah.
Years.
Yeah. Okay.
Years.
Yeah. And
I,
so so I could like a time frame for now, this is how long ago that you got out?
November 2015.
Okay. All right. So about like 7 or so years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is crazy.
Yeah.
I rented a U-Haul, put all my shit, which wasn't a lot because I was living in a spare room of some kind of shitty house
Yeah.
down there just to save money and send everything back home, basically. Yeah, I pulled in and I realized, holy shit, I'm not going back. I remember distinctly having that Like, you think about coming home. You've seen Gladiator where he goes home and he's walking home, and it's like, yeah, this awesome thing. I'm home and I'm back, and
Yeah.
that
Kids
wasn't.
come running out and,
Yeah,
all that shit.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And it wasn't no fault of
Of course. Yeah.
I
Right.
remember. I remember on the other hand though too, Cariana made me like some sort of avocado toast, and I was like, this is amazing.
Okay. All right.
Like, this is so good. This is what I have to look forward to. And like, so I think my service, I could best, and I think that really, this actually, and I never actually think I said this before, but it's like best described as just severe polarity.
Okay. Because it's such a different life on both ends of the spectrum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember driving up down the street, parking the thing and being like, like, fuck, I'm home.
Yeah.
Like, and not like, oh my God, I'm home.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
It's like, this was a one way, and that was it was always a two way. It was always there and back,
Yeah.
and the constant going back and forth between, this tug between like, I want to be here for my family. And when I'm with my, but I want to be doing what I feel like I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
And by the way, I'm pretty good at, like, certainly not like the best, but I'm working to get there. I'm getting better. I know I'm getting better.
Yeah.
I've got some pretty cool opportunities that I'm being that I'm able to pursue
Sure.
in that world.
Yeah.
And who wouldn't want to, which everybody wants to. And I took myself out of it, and so that polarity, really, really was hard. And coming home, I felt like I was just starting over again. 5 years before, it was a new life,
Yeah.
and here I am coming home, and I feel, for the longest time, for years, I felt like a stranger in my own house,
Yeah.
stranger in my own life.
Isn't that crazy too? Because it's like something that you know because you've been there already. They're your family.
Yeah,
But you also just
yeah,
it's like you can't I guess reconnect. You can't disconnect from being like you were before, disconnected because you're always thinking of like
right,
what was going on the other
right,
side.
right.
Um, yeah, like that's
Yeah,
like heavy stuff for
yeah. And the
sure.
kids, they were younger, but for the
But kids
previous,
know.
they
Kids
know,
kids are no
but
kids.
for the previous 5 years too, like, I was never. They're kids. They need
Yeah,
consistency
right.
versus FaceTime or was it Google Chat or whatever,
Yeah, yeah,
thing we did.
yeah,
And so, yeah, it was incredibly difficult for years. Really hard.
yeah,
That transition coming home, it's tough.
yeah. And so transition tough, but was there you said that it lasted for years. Were there things maybe that you started to do that started to kind of I don't want to say like fill the gap, but just kind of sort of get you back on the right track or at least moving in that direction or during that time? I mean,
Well,
I'm sure
and
honestly, I'm just
yeah,
gonna say like I'm
yeah,
sure it's still a process
yeah. It
even
is.
today
It
because it
is.
just
Yeah,
doesn't go away like
yeah, yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah,
So I'm
yeah,
sure you're still working through some of those things
yeah,
for sure.
yeah.
But I'm just curious if there were like some things that you've done since then to kind of like at least put you in a better headspace more consistently.
Yeah, so I turned to fitness. That's always been a thing. Writing, and so I would work out. I would journal, and that would be very healing. That would be cathartic. That would be, I use workouts and movement to just have this deeper connection to myself,
Yeah.
and that was good. That kept me going. But, truthfully, I didn't unpack my bag for about a year.
Okay. Is that because you didn't want to like see that stuff, or you're like, maybe we'll
No,
go
I was
back?
I was planning on going back in.
Yeah,
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 yeah. I left my beret where I could see it all the time to be like, "Hey, don't get too comfortable."
right. We're going back one
And
day.
yeah,
Yeah,
and then 6 month, a buddy called me. He was like, "Hey, I need a good guy to go to Afghanistan with you in." I was like, "Thank you, yes." And then there was another. I was talking with another organization in DC, and they were like, "Yeah, hey, we need to pass the torch. We need a next new breed." And so, that the military does an amazing job of providing you meaning and belonging, and I was missing that.
yeah,
Even though I was with my family,
right.
I didn't feel that. I didn't feel like home, and I felt that with the military. Felt that with that community.
Yeah,
So on the one hand, I say, yeah, I was looking at working at CrossFit, and we were doing some of that stuff. I was working for teaching and doing all that. But I also was like, yeah, but this is like, do this for a few months and then go back
Yeah.
and do it kind of on a part-time level, not full-time.
Sure.
So National Guard, I can be here and there.
Yeah.
Contract work from DC, I can be here and there. It'll be great. And then Kay was like, and I told her, and she was like, yeah, I support you, but like, uh, don't lie to me, don't lie to yourself. And if you can't move on, if you can't be home now, like when will you ever?
Yeah.
And the truth is, I was running away.
Right.
And that was like, oh yeah, that's great to know. But holy shit, there's some stuff that then you have to face and tend to after
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, for sure.
And so, it was a very challenging few years, up until, frankly, been highs and lows and ups and downs, but some real real dark times. And in January of this year, I did a psychedelic healing retreat that really, I think, saved my life in many ways
Really.
and gave me a breath of new life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Take me through like that because I've heard, and I think we talked about this a little bit when we
Mm,
did the Between the Ears episode.
okay.
But I don't think we really dove in
Yeah.
quite all that much.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But like, take me through that and why that was so powerful for you in your experience.
It highlighted. So, I went to Mexico through an organization called Vet Solutions. Veteran Exploring Treatment Solutions is what the vets part of that stands for. And I did ibogaine and 5-MeO DMT, which is like the Everest and whatever of psychedelics.
Okay.
Nothing more powerful than those two. So they say. And it was for as amazing as it was that was probably the hardest thing
Yeah.
I've ever had to do psychologically. You know, you might consider it like a bad trip. I don't know that they say there is no such thing as a bad trip, but
Yeah.
it was the 5-MeO was incredibly challenging. Just I did a podcast on our podcast about it, but like there was both this heaven and this hell experience, and it showed me, I think, some of the way I've processed it is it kind of showed this darkness that was filled with how I've lived for some time. And man, it's almost like I'm having a hard time describing it because it's
Yeah. Yeah.
you
Right.
can't really fully describe
Right.
it.
Unless you like, I guess you actually experience it. And like
Yeah.
I don't know your life experiences. I mean, I
Yeah.
get like a this,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
kind of it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. Interesting. Well, I think I'm curious too because it's like something that you said saved your life, and it's like I'm not gonna say I don't mean this to come off the wrong way because I
Yeah.
just like am trying to process like understanding it,
Yeah.
but it's like it's not real, but it also is real at the same time. And like it's interesting to me because like we said before, I mean you're 7 years out
Yeah.
and like it's still a continuing process even to this day.
Yeah.
And a lot of highs and lows, dark places, good
Yeah.
times, all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, it's interesting to me, like this one thing is something that's so significant and such
Yeah.
like a groundbreaking thing for you.
Yeah.
And like, I've heard on other podcasts, like listen to other people talk about those kinds of experiences that people get over alcoholism or
Yeah. Yeah.
whatever else, and they kind of, you know, I guess power through for a lack of a better word, but using that
Yeah.
experience to do that.
Yeah. And there's so much about it that we just don't know yet.
Yeah.
There's what it does to the brain chemically, not just a thought, but at the chemical level. There's
And
stuff
is
that,
that something that's like obviously like in the moment, but then even beyond that moment?
yeah, well, I mean, these are naturally occurring substances,
Yeah.
and there's a statement that like all, anything in nature has some sort of utility, and now some of the stuff will kill you, so you got to
Of
be
course.
careful.
Yeah.
But what it, yeah, no, I don't know exactly why. I felt a tremendous amount of peace. I felt horror, felt love. I had like an exorcism as well as as an extreme ecstasy.
Yeah.
Like it 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 was it for a long time. I felt like I was not alive.
Mhm.
I felt like I was alive but dead inside.
Yeah. Because you had no purpose
Yeah,
almost.
and
Yeah.
and and the other thing I think that's like a lot of us that go into the military, we have things we struggle with from before the military.
Yeah.
Going into the military for many of us was an attempt to find resolution to some of our deepest, oldest challenges.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that everybody's story is the same. But for me, yeah, going into the military was like there was things that I experienced in my life that informed that decision,
Sure.
and that's something that I've had this conversation with other veterans and teammates, and they're like, yeah, like some of the stuff that bothers us or struggles with us the most is stuff that happened like before the army,
Yeah.
before the military. And that's not to say it's like malice
Sure.
necessarily, but that's just what it is.
Yeah.
And the military provides, like I said, that allure of meaning and belonging. And that's not to say it's all cynical or whatever. But when you look at, well, so as a younger person, you felt like you never had meaning and belonging. Well, what is it? What kind of state, what kind of experience, what kind of life is that as a young human?
Right.
That the military, knowing for sure, you're going to probably go to some sort of war torn situation, or what the risk of this is.
Yeah.
That's the resolution. So what does that say about you and your emotions and your state and your environment, internal and external? That meaning and belonging is found in that regard.
Yeah.
And so the psychedelics have done a lot, for me for sure. And that also is to say that it's not a magic pill, because like
Sure.
the 10 months since doing that have been also like there has not been a just constant
Yeah. Right.
incline. Like
Yeah.
there's
Like
been
we're
ups
great
and
now.
downs.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
I'm
it's
fixed.
hard work.
Yeah.
It's consistent work.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Yeah.
it makes two sandbags on your fucking neck seem like a walk in the park, I'll
Right.
tell
Just
you.
go back to training at this
Yeah,
point. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. It's very interesting because, like obviously like that's a big thing with veterans, like, whether it's PTSD, whether it's different things like that,
yeah,
the stuff that you're experiencing.
yeah,
I don't know if that falls under that. I
sure.
guess it kind of does. But yeah, it's to me like that, this part of this conversation, because we did the pre, we did the during, and we did the post.
Yeah,
And I know the post is going to be probably the one that is the hardest, I
yeah,
guess, or in some cases,
yeah.
maybe not everyone's case. I don't want to like paint everyone with that same brush, but like that's like a big thing because it
It
was such
is.
a big part of your life,
Yeah,
still is a part of your life, even though you don't actually physically go
yeah,
and do those things.
yeah, yeah,
But yeah, no, I think I really appreciate you sharing
yeah. Of
all those kinds
course.
of things.
Yeah,
Um, so are there other things that you're doing now? Like I know we talked about the fitness stuff, we
yeah,
obviously know about Between the Ears from
yeah,
the show.
yeah.
And then are there other things that you're doing to maybe find different ways to provide a meaning for yourself?
For sure. So one of the things that I have done is, I'm a licensed therapist. So I do psychotherapy with people, and to be able to contribute to somebody's life in a positive manner does provide meaning and belonging.
Yeah.
And it's a great honor to be entrusted to share shoulder to shoulder with people who
Yeah.
are going through some stuff. And I take that no different than in whatever our sport is. We need to learn the different skills, different pitches, different ways of hitting, different blah blah
Hmm.
blah. In the army, military, different tactics, different ways of this and that. For me, my approach to therapy is no different. There's different interventions and modalities, and schools of thought, and ways of connecting with folks,
Yeah.
and learning those skill sets to accurately and empathetically identify how a certain model or tool might be of benefit for someone to work through their stuff. I take that pretty damn seriously, and
Yeah.
that's part of what I'm doing now.
Yeah. I was listening to your most recent episode on the Between the Ears podcast, so there's a plug for that.
No big deal.
Yeah, well, we'll plug it again at the end of the episode. Their social media content is getting way better, by the way.
It is.
But and I think you said it on there about like I was gonna say like you don't have the traditional therapist vibe. Like, you're
Uh-huh.
not wearing like a cardigan. Like, have you watched The Patient on Hulu?
No,
Oh, it's a great show. You got to watch it.
no.
Anyway, so Steve Carell plays
Yeah.
a psychologist,
Yeah,
psychiatrist,
yeah,
whatever
yeah,
it is,
yeah.
and he's
Yeah.
got like the beard, and he's old, and he's
Yeah.
got the cardigan, and the khaki pants, and all
Yeah.
that stuff. And then like here you are, and you're obviously not that guy.
Right.
But it's just funny is not the right word,
Yeah.
but it's just an interesting place for you to be in. But I
Yeah.
love the fact that it does give you a place to provide value and meaning for your own life
Yeah.
by helping
Yeah.
other people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think what's weird in a weird way, kind of, and this is just kind of from hearing your story, like when you were in the Green Berets and in the army and doing all that kind of stuff, it was like you didn't feel enough because you were trying to do stuff for other people.
Mm.
Like whether it's like the lineage of the Green Berets
Hmm.
or like that ultimate sacrifice thing, like we were
Hmm.
talking about, it's like other people. So you're never actually putting any emphasis on yourself. And here you are doing a similar type thing where you're
Yeah.
putting your stuff out there for
Yeah.
other people. And obviously like that fills you up, I would hope.
It does, but I would also say that it's not. It it wasn't like I'm no saint.
Right. I'm not saying you
You know
are.
what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and so there is. I think the challenge is like there has to be that reward as well.
Yeah.
And the martyr thing is not. Yeah, I mean martyrs actually they would get rewarded, but
Yeah.
the whole different conversation. But so having that, like, yeah, there is that. It does fill me up.
Yeah.
It does provide, and it is challenging and all of that. Um, but yeah, to have to, and then to be like, hey, like it's okay to you need, actually, it's healthy,
Yeah.
it's critical, it's vital to feel that reward.
Right.
And again, that's like to
You
live and
accomplish
embody that
something.
meaning.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Right.
and to benefit personally as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. All right. So I think we're probably good. I think we
Yeah,
hit all the stuff that we needed to hit.
yeah,
What are some? We'll plug your stuff. What are some places people can go to check out you and the stuff that you have going on? And we already mentioned the podcast, the Between the
yeah,
Ears podcast.
yeah.
I want to listen to those stories with you and Kay,
Yep,
and sometimes guests.
yep.
But what are some other places that they can go to learn more about you and what you have going on?
Yeah, I mean, Instagram is probably, if not my personal handle, Bill Anthes. That's where you can get a sampling of the menu, so to speak, of
Yeah.
sort of what I'm about, or at least what I put up there. Between the Ears, BTWN The Ears is like the umbrella company that houses also Between the Ears Fitness,
Yep.
which is our private training facility that we do, some cool stuff with, and
Yeah.
we have this pretty cool social media.
The reels, I
What
tell
would
you
you
what,
what
are
would you what would you say, or that would be consultant,
content creation.
content creator?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah,
I
our
would love
social
to. I would
media
love to
director.
meet him.
Yeah, yeah, he's pretty good. He hooks it up.
Yeah.
People are like, "Hey, man, your stuff looks really good." I'm like, "Yeah, I can't take any credit for it."
That's good.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, I appreciate you not
yeah,
taking my credit. I mean, whoever does your stuff, but
yeah.
awesome. So I'll make sure that I put that stuff in the show notes so if people do want to, connect with you,
Cool.
connect with Between the Ears, all that kind of stuff. They can. I think this is a great way to start. I said this halfway through the episode. A great way to kind of kick this off.
Yeah,
I really appreciate you coming on,
yeah,
sharing this. I can't wait to get to the other ones and kind of have like now your perspective, because this was me learning a lot of stuff
yeah,
that
yeah,
I just don't know. And I think having like your perspective as a co-host with me on the rest of these episodes is going to be huge
yeah,
because like I can run a show, but I don't know. I'm
yeah.
not an expert on this stuff.
I think it's an awesome thing you're doing. I'm super grateful to be asked to co-host, and as long as you stay in the driver's seat, I can maybe be in the passenger and say,
Right.
hey,
Yeah. Make this left.
But
Yeah.
I think
Like,
it'll be cool. I think
yeah.
it'll be cool.
No,
Yeah,
I'm
looking
very
forward to it.
excited. Very
Yeah,
excited. So everybody listening, Bill Anthes again. I'm Mike Ham. This has been the Greetings from the Garden State podcast, the first of our New Jersey veteran series. We can call it that.
yeah.
New Jersey veteran series. GreetingsfromtheGardenState.com is the website. We'll make sure everyone knows where these episodes will be posted once they are posted. Thank you for listening to this episode, and we will catch you next time.